also cost increases of more than 20% and $2 million. So those are two actions that are changing today on projects. And as a reminder, only products that are in this amendment are impacted. So it does not, it's not a vote for the entire TIP. It's just the ones in the amendment. So the first amendment every year is what is called the roll forward. And this happens actually statewide. So products from the prior fiscal year, which was fiscal year 2023 that is now ending, there may be products in there or phases that have not yet been obligated or spent down. The funding on that then rolls to 2024. And so that happens as a large bulk of projects statewide. What you're seeing is just those for Palm Beach County. The reason for these, it could just be ones related to maybe there's product managers who are still closing out final phases of a project, and there might be a little money on the books. So you'll see very small amounts for those. There's also ones that may have started late or not at all yet, and they're rolling and will be kicking off pretty early in fiscal year 2024. So for the roll forward products within our county, what I'm showing on the screen is a summary of our TIP for fiscal year 2024 and what's in there currently, which is $965 million. What's being rolled forward, which is $122 million. And then what the new TIP will show at the end, over $1 billion in fiscal year 2024. That $1 billion is out of the roughly $4.1 billion total that's in the 5 years of the TIP. Also included in this roll forward, we added 2 additional projects. These were requests from FDOT, and so I'll go through those. The first one is State Road 700, Connors Highway. This is located out in the Glades community, goes from First Street out in the Canal Point area to State Road 80, a 20-mile bend. That's about a 15-mile stretch, and this is increasing the funding for the construction from $20 million to $25.36 million. So there's an increase in the cost estimate. This is looking to go to construction sometime heading into summer of next year. And with this, the resurfacing funds they're using are National Highway resurfacing funds. So ones that can be reimbursed through federal funds for the National Highway System. The next project for you is a new product in our priority list. It's Southwest 18th Street, and this is in Boca Raton. This is a product that is being put into our Transportation Alternatives Program, prioritized through there. And it's looking to get construction, you'll see in the next work program draft, but they're ready to start design already for this. And so design will be done by local agencies, Boca Raton, and there's SFRTA. Anytime that a product is done with federal funds by a local agency, FDOT provides design oversight. And that's what you're seeing with this. It's just $5,000. They added to all those projects that are federally funded, that are being administered by locals. And so you're seeing the design oversight funds being added. But why it triggers an amendment is because it's a new product showing up in the first year of the TIP. And even though it's only $5,000, it's still a new phase. That's all I have for you. I can answer any questions like that.
All right, thank you. Cards up if you have a question. All right, I see Councilmember Drucker.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Just a comment. I just wanted to thank the TPA. This is something that was brought up to us, I believe it was a couple months ago. And also thank you to FDOT to include this because I know our residents have been looking for more shared path use. So it's just more of a thank you.
Okay, excellent. I forgot to ask, do we have any public comments regarding this?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, anybody else? Comments, questions, or otherwise? Oh, okay. And we can go ahead and take a vote. So I'm seeking a motion to adopt amendment number 1 to the TPA's fiscal year 2024 to 28 Transportation Improvement Program, or TIP. So we don't have any further discussion. So I'm asking for a motion and a second, please. All right, we've got Flores for our motion.
Second.
And second from Drucker. All right, thank you so much. Moving right along, we're going to go towards the motion to adopt our amendment number 1 for the fiscal year 25 to 29 list of priority projects, or the LOP. I love that. And so we have Brian Rusher, our TPA director, deputy director of multimodal. Hello.
Good morning. Excuse me. We need to have a.
Oh, we have a roll call vote for that?
Yep.
Oh, my apologies. All right, Ruth, can we go back? I apologize, Brian.
Steve Wilson,
Yes.
Yvette Drucker,
Yes.
Fran Nacklis,
Yes.
Angela Cruz is absent. Shelley Petrolia,
Yes.
I'm sorry, Angela Cruz,
Yes.
thank you. Joel Flores,
Yes.
Jim Koretsky,
Yes.
Ronaldo Diaz,
Yes.
Joni Brinkman,
Yes.
DeAndre Poole,
Yes.
Greg Wise is absent. Marcy Woodward,
Yes.
Maria Sachs is absent. Mac Bernard,
Yes.
Shirley Lanier is absent. Fred Pinto,
Yes.
Michael Napoleon's alternate, John McGovern,
Yes.
Christy Fox,
Yes.
Joseph Paduzzi,
Yes.
Maria Marino,
Yes.
Chelsea Reed.
Yes, and thank you so much, Ruth. All set? Thank you. Will we be requiring a roll call vote for the next one as well? Because it's not in my notes if it is. No? All right, thank you so much. All righty. Hi, Brian.
Morning.
All right, let's go for it.
Thank you, everybody. Brian Reesher, Deputy Director of Multimodal. Hope you all are having a great day. Here to present the list of priority projects, or LOP. I promise I won't use LOP in the presentation. Amendment number 1. So the mission of the TPA is to collaboratively plan, prioritize, and fund the transportation system. The list of priority projects is really how we go about doing that. And I'm going to describe the transportation improvement process just generally in brief, so that everyone is kind of aware of what we're amending when we talk about the list of priority projects. So on the screen, from the left to the right, you have project development at the start. This is where the project, we get a comment about it at the TPA or at your local jurisdiction. You go through conceptual development, maybe put together some preliminary project plans, and you ask the TPA to fund that project. That ask gets put onto our list of priority projects, the second step in the transportation improvement plan for us as we develop throughout the year. We just adopted this list of priority projects, but we're bringing it back for an amendment because we have received requests for additional projects to get funding. Projects are not actually funded until they are included in the final step on the screen, the transportation improvement program. And you get a preview of the transportation improvement through what we call the draft tentative work program, typically released in October through December. So the amendment to the list of priority projects generally is our signal that we would like to fund these projects in this order and in this priority. For consideration today is the re-inclusion of one project, which I'll describe on the next slide, and then 2 additional projects into a different funding program that the state of Florida has created a few years ago that we'll be seeking funds for. The first project is US 1 from North Lake Boulevard to Parker Bridge. So for those of you who have been on this board for some time or have really taken a deep dive into our 561 corridors, the US 1 multimodal corridor study was completed in 2016 and identified a series of tier 1 projects for FDOT and for local municipalities to consider. One of which was this one. From North Lake Boulevard to Parker Bridge, there is a 6-lane configuration, which really isn't warranted. This concept for lane repurposing to 4 lanes was already approved by the municipality, by the FDOT local district, and by the DOT central office in Tallahassee. What the lane repurposing would do is essentially repurpose the outside lane into additional green space, a shared use path, and a dedicated bicycle lane. The nice thing about the lane repurposing from 6 to 4 is that on either end of the project is already 4 lanes. And there are complementary land uses that are being sought out by the village of North Palm Beach to complement this complete streets project. So when we think about what we could push for as a TPA and our vision and our mission, this is really emblematic of that. And it is a nice re-inclusion into the priority list as it was before, 17-1F, as this project is now ready and has received all of the approvals we've discussed previously. Now, the second category of projects, this is very exciting. So the state of Florida has created a program called the Sun Trails Program, Shared Use Non-Motorized Trail Network. This is a statewide network of regionally significant trails, or at least of state significance. An example of this, probably the best example we have locally, is the Lake Okeechobee Scenic Trail, the Lost Trail. It's a 110-mile trail network around Lake Okeechobee. That is significant for the entire state. The goal there is to put a shared use path of at least 12-foot width along the entirety of the rim of the lake so that you could do 110 miles completely separated from traffic on this trail network. And the state has put funds available to this program for that. There are some requirements that are put forth by the state, specifically that you have to coordinate with your neighbors. So because there are state and regionally significant trails, you'll see that this runs throughout all of our communities. And what we need to do is we're making sure that we're coordinating between, Palm Beach Gardens, Jupiter, North Palm Beach, for example, if we want to shift that network. This network requires interlocal coordination. It also requires a maintenance obligation. So FDOT requires entities who are applicants to this program to take on the maintenance of whatever is built, whether it be bridges, shared use paths, etc. So getting into the projects that have been received by the TPA. And what's nice about this is that there are an additional round of funds this year that the state legislature has injected into this program, meaning that once you get into the work program, you have a higher likelihood that projects will continue on to different phases. First project is a feasibility study located in the town of Jupiter. This is to connect the existing US 1 bridge reconstruction underway right now to North Lake Boulevard with a dedicated pathway. And the reason that there's a need for a feasibility study in this area is, if you can't tell by the map, there's a myriad of pathways and trails which are all located but not necessarily connected within this network. So this feasibility study, entirely funded by the state, would connect all of these different paths, identify ways to connect the bridges between them, and more or less make a seamless facility for trail users in the town of Jupiter. Similarly, in the city of Boca Raton, there is a very narrow bridge over A1A at the Boca Inlet. And this pathway doesn't necessarily lend itself well to pedestrian and bicycle connections. It is essentially a pinch point where there's not a lot of space. Without reconstructing the bridge, you don't have a lot of room. So the city has requested $3 million for feasibility and design for how we could connect the pedestrian bridge to an existing work program project for bridge rehabilitation in between the years of fiscal years 24 to 28, and improve the system to have that 12-foot wide pathway connection so that you can safely get across walking and biking. Very brief, we are anticipating additional projects in the coming months. As I said before, there is an injection of state funds into this program in the coming years, which is separate from the TPA funding. So it's really nice to see that we have some locals going after this unique funding pot for us. So with that, I'd like to have a motion to recommend approval for amendment number 1 to the list of priority projects. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Great presentation. So before we move on to our board, do we have any public comments? I see Commissioner Marino's card is up.
No public comments, Madam Chair.
All right, so anyone who's here with me now, if you could put your cards up if you have a question, we'll go right into Commissioner Marino.
Thank you. I just want to say the inclusion of North Palm Beach just shows that the TPA, even though we're only 20 some odd members representing the larger cities, that we really do take into consideration the smaller cities that we have, as we've done with Tequesta and North Palm. And for those of you that have traveled in North Palm on this stretch of roadway, which used to be 6 lanes and then had a lane diet, which I know is not the correct term for this, but we've always said lane diet. But with the advent of the Twin City malls being redeveloped, this particular roadway network being able to include bike paths and really what we do as an agency, where we are trying to just not be about cars. It's a great use of resources and it's a great use for the city. So I just wanted to say, come visit North Palm.
Thank you, Commissioner Marino. And I don't know if you could hear it, but you got a good giggle with that road diet. So. All right, so moving along, we've got a couple of cards up here. So it's going to go in this order: Diaz, Koretsky, Peduzzi, Drucker. So let's start with Ronaldo Diaz, please, Commissioner from.
Yeah, so that first map that you showed, it had a red line kind of north of the L8 Canal. Is that the Ocean to Lake hiking trail?
Yes, that is the Ocean to Lake hiking trail
Yeah.
is included for potential funding in the future. However, it's unlikely that it would likely hit the design criteria for being a paved path.
Mhm.
If there are instances where there are crossings of key roadways, that's where the eligibility might come into play, because there are certain sections of hiking trails which would need to be paved and designed appropriately when you start to have those interactions. So it's one of the reasons that's included on the state. If we could pull up the presentation just to. let you
Yeah.
see.
Okay, I mean, that's really interesting. I would imagine the Florida Trail Association isn't a fan of paved sections, at least for long distances, but I just, needed to unfortunately make this comment that I find it, I mean, this is great. This is a phenomenal thing. And as someone who's done the Ocean Lake Trail multiple times, I can point out that one of its highlights is that it kind of takes you through gives you kind of a little walkthrough of what our watershed looks like between the Loxahatchee River and the Lake Worth Lagoon, starting from Lake Okeechobee through Dupuy and Corbett, and these incredible water areas, if you will. And it's included in this list of projects, of course, is the controversial State Road 7, which when you think about it is would compromise really that theme, because if you break apart grassy waters, you severely threaten the water quality and the environment quality of that area. And part of the specialness of that trail in this area, this northern end of Palm Beach County, is you can do this 72-mile trail and walk through incredible areas. And it's kind of a holdout in Florida in general to find areas like this that are constantly under threat of development and are regularly being lost. So I will vote for this. I do expect it to pass, but I just want my friends in West Palm to understand that I sympathize and stand in solidarity with their concerns, because I do expect one day, hopefully, that State Road 7 project ends and that nearly $90 million can be used elsewhere in a more fortuitous way that doesn't compromise people's water source and the environment.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Diaz. We're going to move on to Mayor Koretsky.
So I make it clear before I say what I'm going to say, I support the what's on the agenda, because what the agenda is putting forth, the desires of this board. But I want to express for the record my continued disappointment with FDOT, knowing particularly now that they listen to our meetings. And it's got to do with priority project 21-6, which was entered years ago. And it's talking about Indian Town Road at Central Boulevard. And it's funding we sought to do a PD&E study to evaluate congestion mitigation alternatives, which FDOT themselves knows needs to be done. And yet year after year, they choose not to fund it. What's really most, interesting about this is, number one, I'll say, the county 15 years ago had a comp plan that required corridor master plans be done. One was done for Indian Town Road because it was one, I think there was 3 corridor master plans, and it was recognized that there was some significant congestion issues. So fast forward to 2019, and I just got this a couple of months back from FDOT that in June of 2019, FDOT District 4 completed a Palm Beach County congestion assessment study. And on page 9 of that report, in table 3, they list State Road 706 from Central Boulevard to Center Street as was designated as prioritization rank 1 because it was the most congested roadway in the county, state roadway. They then continued and did an evaluation of what's needed. They came up with a conceptual design, came up with the funding requirements, and did a cost benefit analysis proving it's a worthwhile project to do to relieve congestion. Complication about, and it's really a segment of the roadway. And this is something I've long known about. So you would think, gee, this is good news here. Then since we put this in the priority plan and they indicate they haven't funded it, they in fact proceeded to look at an alternative, which they conclude would be better to remove congestion. So I'm just totally flabbergasted that we have an agency here, and that's why my issue is about the performance metrics, that their own performance metrics say, hey, this is a congested area. It was rated number one. They've studied it. They know how much it would cost to fix it. I don't know why that's not being put in the budget plan, but you know, it's like, so 2019, they identified it. This budget cycle, we're going out to 2029 and they won't even fund an additional study that they recommended. How many decades go by before FDOT decides to act on something they themselves indicated was a priority and cost beneficially justified? I apologize for my frustration, but they won't answer that. So I just want to say it does, you know, it's on the priority list. Thank you, board, for keeping it there. But that's why I'm hoping that they reevaluate the performance metrics, because they're apparently not using their process, if you will. Anyway, again, I support the item, but I'd be remiss not to bring that up. And hopefully that's going to be added on our list, the next agenda item.
Thank you very much, Mayor Koretsky. We'll move on to Commissioner Peduzzi, please. Oh, is your card down or?
My
oh,
card's down.
You're
now.
down now.
Thank you.
Okay, I apologize. Then to Councilmember Drucker.
Thank you, Brian. Again, more of a comment. Thank you for working with our staff. We got a report on this last week. And thank you to the TPA and the FDOT, because our goal, and like Commissioner Marino said earlier, is we're all on each other's road, small cities, big cities. And the goal is to transfer people effectively, efficiently on safe roads and have connectivity. So again, thank you for working with our city staff, and on behalf of myself and the council, we appreciate those efforts.
All right, excellent. I don't see any other cards up and we don't have anyone else virtually or public comments. Let's move on. And I do not need a roll call vote for this one. So we're just going to bring it around. I'm going to seek a motion to adopt amendment number 1 to the fiscal year 2025 to 2029 list of priority projects, LOPP. So if I could have an all in favor, say aye. What? Oh, sorry, I need a second and a first, sorry. A motion, please. I
So moved.
apologize. All right, Pinto. And my second was Fran.
Second.
Okay, Nakwas. And after that, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No,
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
no,
Can
No,
Oh,
you
I
got
had
two
to put you a
dissenters.
no as in no.
we?
Let's do a roll call then, shall we? All right.
Steve Wilson,
yes.
Yvette Drucker,
Yes.
Fran Nacklis,
Yes.
Angela Cruz.
Yes.
Shelley Petrolia,
Yes.
Joel Flores,
Yes.
Jim Kretzky,
Yes.
Ronaldo Diaz,
Yes, but considering my previous comments,
Joni Brinkman,
Yes.
DeAndre Poole,
Yes.
Craig Wise is absent, Marcy Woodward,
Yes.
Maria Sachs is absent, Mac Bernard,
Here, yes.
Shirley Lanier is absent. Fred Pinto,
Yes.
John McGovern,
Yes.
Christy Fox,
No, due to the inclusion of State Road 7.
Joseph Paduzzi,
No, due to the inclusion of the State Road 7 extension project.
Maria Marino,
Yes.
Chelsea Reed.
Yes.
Thank you.
If we could get a count, just so we have it for the record.
16-2.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you, Brian. And I think I need to borrow someone else's reading glasses. Mine officially are no longer strong enough to read today. Okay, so we're going to move on to our information items, and I'm really excited about this as always, Nathan. We love when you present about our LRTP. So this is, we're inviting Nathan George, our Long Range Transportation Plan Coordinator, to present this item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everybody. Pleased to be with you, Nathan George, your Long Range Transportation Plan Coordinator. I'm really excited to talk to you about two phases of the Long Range Transportation Plan. So first up, we're going to talk about the 2045 LRTP. So this is our old car that we're still driving around, and we need to take it into the shop and tune it up. Today is the first reading where we're going to talk through some updates that need to be made to the LRTP Amendment number 2. All right, so we've taken this into the shop, done a 140-point inspection and found a few areas where we can improve some consistency with our plan. So this plan was last updated January 7th of 2022. So it's now been almost 18 months, call it, since the last update. A lot has changed since this plan was last updated, so we need to make sure that we have consistency with other planning documents. So first up is a really exciting change that we get to incorporate into this plan, and that's additional revenue sources. So, we've got new revenues that have come in. The example that I put up, CAR-U, carbon reduction funds, that's a new federal funding source that we're capturing in this update. We've also been fortunate to receive some discretionary grants, which are, federal appropriations that are just specific projects in this area. So we're capturing those increased revenues as well. We've made several updates to our TIP. You've taken action on those. So this plan update just incorporates those funding changes to be consistent with the TIP. And then FDOT has also made changes in funding to their strategic intermodal system plan that gets folded into the TIP. So we've made sure to incorporate those changes as well. So everything's all buttoned up and consistent. All right. There are two types of update. When we make an LRTP update, we can have two different types of changes. So I'm going to outline what those are just so everybody is all on the same page. The first, the higher order change, is an amendment. So that's when we're making more substantial changes that require the public review process. So these are changes that are a significant scope change. We might add a new project or add a new phase of a project. We might change the limits of a project, so extend where the work is going to be conducted. It can also include acceleration of a project. So something is maybe moving through the process a little more quickly and we can advance construction. So that would be something that triggers an amendment, or a cost increase. And the cost increase threshold that's outlined by FDOT is pretty significant. So it needs to be a cost increase of greater than 50% and $50 million. So if we're talking $4 or $5 million projects, they're not going to trigger the amendment. If we're talking those larger, call them mega projects, that's where we'll trigger an amendment. So these are the larger project changes that do require that public review. There's another type of change we can make to this document that's called an administrative modification. That's more at the discretion of this board to make those changes just to make sure we're consistent, and they're smaller changes. So it's project scope is generally consistent. The schedule hasn't been accelerated, and we haven't triggered any of those amendment thresholds. It's more or less an accounting exercise. As you see here, table 20, revenue forecast, that demonstrates these new funding sources, and then all of these changes we're showing in that funding table revenue forecasts are just administrative modifications. To give you an idea of what you're looking at, so if you go back and take a look through the cost feasible plan, this is an example. There are multiple pages of the cost feasible plan. So just to give you a couple of quick highlights, the majority of the changes are administrative modifications. So these are things that are at the discretion of TPA. We're just doing that accounting for consistency. The sort of flesh color beigey line, that's a new phase of the Turnpike project at our northern boundary. So approaching the North Palm Beach County line, there was an added phase just to do some preliminary engineering in an outer year. So that since that was added in this update, we wanted to make sure that's included for consistency, and it's new, so that is an amendment. One other key consideration as we bring forward amendments that's not required for administrative modifications is we need to demonstrate that we have a financially constrained document. So our expenses and our revenues line up. We don't want to have expenses that exceed our revenue sources. So table 23 of the document presents that we have a match between revenue sources and the amount of expenses that are allocated through this 2045 cost feasible timeframe. And so this is why we're here today. It's just an informational item. Again, this is more or less a balancing exercise, making sure that this document, our document that is sort of our main core product, is consistent with those other documents that you've taken action on a number of times since the last update to this plan. So we posted this September 1st for public review. We've presented to committees at the beginning of the month. We're now here to present to you just as a first reading, so to give you an opportunity to take a look at the updates to the plan. We'll bring this back as a formal action item next month, so you can take action at the October 19th board meeting. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Do we have any public comments?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, I don't see any virtual cards up. I've got one card here, and Mayor Kratzky.
Two things. Number one, thank you for bringing this forward as information, to have an opportunity for input. We had, the town was just amending its comp plan this week with our air amendments, which is a more comprehensive round of updates. And by the way, for the record, we incorporated the commitment to Vision Zero into that, which is really where it belongs. But the question on that, we had a lively discussion about Tri-Rail, and just as you explained, that, and I know this is the past plan, and we're going to be working on the new plan. I recognize that, but I just want to understand, and I just want to hear it from you. So there's an item in there for Tri-Rail, going to Jupiter, but it was not funded. So it's currently not in the cost feasible plan through 2045. Can you explain? Because you said if it's not in here, I just want to understand that. I know it hasn't been funded and we're looking for funding, but so when it's included in here, does that mean that? Can you explain what it means?
So everything that's in the cost feasible plan is consistent with the 2045 plan as, as funding was allocated previously. This does not include addition of new funding for a project like that that's in an outer time band. So as you look at the 2045 plan, it has the first 5 years as our tip, and then it has a number of bands towards the outer years. And as we, receive new funding and work in, outer years, so to speak, we could see additional funding come in for projects. That's a very substantial project. So,
No, and I understand that.
what you
This-
see right now is really just the planning funding that has been maintained or carried forward, but there's not an incorporation of additional funding to cover that. Largely what you're seeing in this update is going to be cost updates that capture additional cost increases for projects. So for a lot of like the FDOT projects, you see that as well for locally funded projects or the local initiative projects. So it's, like I said, more of an accounting practice, and it doesn't really account for those more outer year that need substantial infusions of cash to carry them through to a next day.
No, and well, I understood that. I just want to be able to go back and report officially, not, I'm saying it was confirmed. This is the case because, a decade ago, people thought it was imminent. We get asked all the time, like, what's the likelihood of it? We know how much money it's needed for construction because that's in funding the study. We know what the construction estimate is. So thank you. But how does the Indian Town Road segment get in this plan? And since it's been identified by FDOT, it's a priority project. I don't see it in as a listed item. It's a state road mod.
Yeah, right now that is, that's a project that is in the list of priority projects. Anything that gets funded through the work program, since it was not included in the 2045 cost feasible plan, any new projects that get included through those annual calls, if you will, that go into the LOPP, those projects would be incorporated as FDOT allocates funds to them. So that's where it will be important for projects like that you want to see in the 2050 plan for us to get them included in that cost feasible list when we adopt the 2050 plan, which is something we'll be discussing in the next item. And then also as we get into the vetting process for projects next year.
Okay, I don't want to belabor it, but just I'd like to understand. We could talk afterwards.
Okay.
Because this still looks out to 2045. So if we have FDOT themselves that identified this, it just seemed like I'm just looking for, hopefully, maybe some sense of in my lifetime, they're going to fund this. I mean that seriously, right? So I can tell the public that. So
And I can jump in. So the 2045 is, as Nathan mentioned, it's planning, right? We're required to do our 5-year committed projects for funding work program. And then with the 2040, the 25 outlook is kind of directing those dollars, but this is more longer term. In the imminent funding of our list of priority projects, which we give to FDOT, and then ultimately it becomes the draft and work program, however that shakes out, and then our committed projects in the transportation improvement program. That's what's actually allocated for funding, what's in the tip. So the project for Indiantown Road, it is a 2021 request. We are in discussions with FDOT. We'll see where that funding comes in when we receive the draft tender work program. I know Christine's here. I'm not sure if she wants to speak to that, or we can speak with you after, but the LRTP is looking out long-term, and it does kind of direct, it is our North Star. It directs, it feeds into the tip, but the tip is in the next 5 years. So what is being funded? And I know we're looking at projects in there, including State Road 7, which is a request from 2020 or 2004. But most of the projects, it goes in that order through the tip. And so that project is a 2021, but we have heard you. We are working with FDOT, and they are looking into it when we receive the draft tentative work program, which will be in October. So we hope to see how things are shaking out and where that funding is shaking out, but we are working with them to try to prioritize things as soon as possible. In regards to the Tri-Rail Coastal Link question, in our current transportation improvement program, we do have a line item. It's a different type of funding. It's a placeholder for Tri-Rail Coastal Link for a PD&E study. It's been brought up before. We are continuing to hold it as long as we can, but we will need a local funding source for operations and maintenance, as we can only fund capital dollars. So when that happens locally, when a local funding source becomes available, then we can start moving those things forward.
Any other comments or questions? Hey, agreed. I think there should almost be an imaginary list that we have of things that we could do if we had a surtax or a funding source, so that we could see what we're missing out on one day. All right, so just so that our board knows, in our agenda packet, all of these images are available, and I want to thank staff for making it so digestible. Really like the utilization of the coloring. It made it much easier to understand. Not that it's not easy, but you guys make it easier all the time. Thank you. So we're going to have you just stay right where you are, and we're going to move on to the 2050 LRTP. So go for it.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. So that was the old car that we're keeping it moving. Now we're going to build the shiny new thing, the 2050 plan. So Vision 2050, we're here just to give you a brief update on the call for projects is exactly what we were just talking about, getting those new projects funded, and also give you some updates on our public engagement activities. All right, so just a reminder of the timeline, so everybody in the room can get a good reminder of where we are. So we went through a goal setting process. We're going to have an opportunity to circle back and close the loop on goals and objectives. So I'll highlight that here in a minute. Right now we're in the call for projects phase. So this is the really exciting part of the process. We need to hear ideas and get those new project ideas funded. Maybe they're in the LOPP today, but we're really looking for new opportunities, call it everything under the sun, working towards our adoption date at the end of next year. Public engagement. So we're really excited to have completed our statistically significant survey. The data for that was conducted early in August, and then we've had our follow-up meetings with the consultant team. They're working on getting documentation of the results of that study. So we've had some briefings and have some takeaways, but we're still looking to get some additional information from them. A copy of that survey is posted on our website. We've been pushing it out and getting a lot of positive response. Yesterday, we were up to just under 200 responses so far, so we're doing really well. So that's a good opportunity for folks to engage. So that's posted on our LRTP page. We're working on some additional tools. Really excited to say that as of yesterday, we're working towards getting the comment map as sort of this opposite side of the call for projects. The public will have an opportunity to submit their comments in the comment map. We've reformatted that data so it will be a little bit more informative as we go through the needs analysis. So I would encourage everybody around the table to encourage your residents, encourage your staff.
About anybody else,
submitting to the call for projects,
exhausted,
to
period.
submit comments on that comment map.
I'm finding it
Really
hard to
helpful
even keep my
information
eyes
as we
open,
go through
period.
that. I lost my clicker. There we go. I'll go back one for you. Save the date. So we want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to be very involved in this process. So we're going to hold 2 workshops. So we wanted to put this on everybody's radar. We'll start circulating out the notices and help people get signed up. But two LRTP specific workshops that we're going to hold in November just before the holidays. So November 14th, 3:30 to 4:30 in the afternoon. That's a Tuesday. We're going to hold a 1 hour virtual workshop. This will just give folks who can't come into into our office the opportunity that they can engage with us in a virtual format. And then November 16th, which is a Thursday from 9 to 11, it would typically be our board meeting date. So that'll be an opportunity for folks to come in and meet with us in person. We'll talk through the goals and objectives and hopefully highlight some really important takeaways that will inform this process. So just put those dates on your calendar and try and attend. We certainly want to see a lot of representation, board and committee members. The call for projects is live. So this is the most important part of the process, in my view, getting the ideas out that we want to see funded in the next plan. So we've made it as easy as we possibly can. You can submit from your cell phone if you are so inclined, but basically we want folks to go review the application, start assembling your project details, try to make it as easy as possible for folks to submit. Anybody who has questions can contact me. We'll set up meetings and make sure that everything that any answers that we need to give you, we give you. This survey is available through November 3rd, and I've been reaching out to all of our localities to try and set up meetings and meet with your staff. I would certainly encourage everybody to be proactive and try and get us those ideas. We have made it literally as easy as possible. It could be a napkin sketch. Give us anything that you've got. So Call for Projects is the URL on our webpage, but if you go to the LRTP page, you'll see a link to take you to that. More details are available on both the public engagement and on the Call for Projects at our LRTP page. And folks can use Calendly. It's a way that they can see my calendar and schedule an appointment with me without even having to do the email exchange. What's your availability? So that's a good way to schedule meetings. I have 30-minute and hour blocks available for folks on Calendly, or email and phone calls work as well. So I've had a couple of those. So certainly encourage everybody to be engaged in that process. We'll have a lot more public engagement. And also want to highlight, we want to get out and meet with your boards, your councils. So if you would like a briefing, please let us know. We'll come out and give you a quick presentation. We've got the slide deck just about tweaked and ready to go. So we'll be happy to come and brief your decision-making bodies about what we're trying to do with this LRTP. With that, I'm finished.
All right, let's see. Do we have any public comments?
No, Madam Chair.
And no one virtual either. All right, how about anyone here with me? I see one card so far. Okay, Mayor Koretsky.
Just for clarity, exciting when we get to this point in the next long-term plan. Is the county, I would hope, is in fact participating in that. And I say that because the shout out to the county engineer is, they work phenomenally, at least in North County, on identifying projects. So I know normally this is from TPA, it's the state projects and what have you, but in the last long-term plan, the county very much participated. And then we included their projects, as all of us are affected by county roadways. Again, I just wanted to make sure for the record that they were full participants in that because we benefit from that.
Yeah, for the record, the county is invited, as are every locality. So anybody who owns or maintains a transportation facility, that also includes our stakeholders. So Palm Tran, which is a county agency, but everybody who has transportation facilities who's eligible to receive federal funding is invited to participate in the Call for Projects. And we encourage ideas from everybody. So even if it's not your road, we want to hear what transportation enhancements would benefit the region. So that could include an idea that a municipality has on somebody else's road, if they're eligible to receive those funds.
Right, but the difference was in the county's participation, they bring the county funding, knowing, so, they're not, they will also want, state and funding and such, but they bring the county funding, which was what was phenomenal. It was a more comprehensive long-term plan process that if you were here last time, you would know, but we need to do that again.
Yeah, we're actively engaged with the county. So thanks.
So I see Commissioner Diaz has it fired up.
It might be a little early to ask this question, so feel free to not have an answer. But when it comes to the survey, I'm just curious, like, are there preliminary things that are standing out? Are people talking about like the exponential increase on e-bikes, for example, and things like that, that we inevitably have to address.
Yeah, I don't have a lot that I can share from the study because I've got so much other stuff in my mind trying to get through this process. But a few of the takeaways that we heard, one of the biggest challenges that folks shared, as all of us would expect, is that traffic congestion is a challenge in our region. And of course, it's a challenge. To balance that out, one of the other key takeaways was that options was really important to folks. So like what are other ways that we could get around? So it sort of balances out, like, how can we mitigate congestion? Maybe we have better transportation options. So that was one of the takeaways that we had, but there's a lot more that the consultant team's working on. One thing you'll see as we get out and talk with the community and start getting into the presentations, a big theme that we're going to build into that dialogue is that quality of life was a really important variable. So as we think about, what do we all love about this place? Palm Beach County is a great place to live. It's attracted a lot of people. And so trying to maintain that quality of life through transportation investments and through, the types of tools that will maintain the quality of life we've all experienced into the future is one of the very important considerations as we think about how to make investments looking ahead to 2050.
Thank you. It's really exciting because I do feel or have sensed a shift on social media and public elsewhere. There's kind of a major shift in perspective. And I even, kind of noticed it this morning when many board members are complaining about their traffic rows. This morning, I took Palmtran and just cruised right through. So I did not notice any traffic rows. So shout out to Palmtran.
Excellent. Anybody else? No, I love hearing about the Palm Tran time. Valerie, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, just thank you, Nathan, for your presentation. I do want to reiterate, if anyone would like a presentation to their councils, to their commissions about this to help spread the word, we do want as much engagement and involvement in this process. And we are making a specific point. We not only have monthly coordination meetings with county engineering, but we're also setting up meetings with them specifically throughout the process to make sure we're including and aligning with them as much as possible, and so that it's not more of a last minute thing like it was last time. So we are working very closely with Palmtran and with county engineering, as well as all of our local municipalities. So
Thank you, Nathan. I'm so excited about it this year. I feel like you're going to get great community support, as well as all 39 municipalities involved. I know your outreach started 6 months ago, even more. So it's great to see it. Again, I encourage all of us that are a municipality to put our projects in. Sounds like the county is already on it, and this is our wish list, right? This could be our wish list. So I do have one quick question. So I know that I share the transportation comment map a lot with our residents because they do see things and then they hopefully report them. What's the overlay between the transportation comment map and then the Vision 2050 survey? So how do you kind of integrate those two?
Okay, so I've done this before in my past life before I got here. So public perception is a really valuable way to gauge, we're as professionals all going to have assessments that we make of like, where do we see needs and all of that kind of stuff. Perception helps us to understand, do people actually see the same things we're seeing, or they might point out things that we didn't think of, just the people who experience the transportation environment that's out there might share something that we weren't thinking of, that our stakeholders were not thinking of. And so we're going to use it as we go through the needs analysis to validate some of our assumptions, both in the projects that are submitted and in the needs that we may need to validate, or maybe the public will identify needs that we aren't thinking of. So it kind of hits on 3 points, if you will. We need to get a lot of data for it to be very informative that way. And we've made a few little tweaks, very minor tweaks, to help us be able to evaluate that data in a way that, contributes meaningfully as we start looking at projects and where our priorities need to be set.
Excellent. Great answer. And I have a card came up. Mayor Pinto?
Yes, part of the study and information gathering you're doing is, do you believe it's going to give us a better perspective on what we need to do in terms of our vision in the future for our public transportation network? Beyond Palm Trans, so to speak.
Absolutely. Yeah. So We're working on the LRTP, and then we also have the mobility vision, which is a really deep dive into the 561 corridors. And those two efforts are working together right now to really establish, what does transportation look like into the future from a transit and multimodal perspective. So I do think both of those efforts are going to contribute a lot of understanding to what our needs are in this
Yeah.
region.
Would you characterize this data gathering methodology as getting grassroots input in vision?
That's my hope. That's why,
Okay. I think that's what we need.
I really
Uh,
felt like that comment map is going to be the most meaningful way for folks to share, we can get thousands of comments and engage with thousands of
Right.
people if we use the tools electronically online that, at your comfort, you can submit comments anytime and anywhere. So that's the best way for folks to engage with us
This
and
is- I
and
think
to
this
see
is
that
an
real,
important-
like where the problems are. or
Very
where the
important
opportunities
process, and this is very important information, because I think it's unintended consequences. I think, folks who've been involved with this issue for many years in the past have rooted themselves in a viewpoint that says, you know what, in this area where we live, public transportation won't work. And I think if you I've talked to constituents, they don't buy into that. Okay, they're challenging us to come up with new innovative measures, new technologies, new ways of making public transportation work. And the goal is to give people a real option to say, I don't need to take my car. Gentleman over here today said he didn't take his car, and they came in our cars. It took us longer to get here. But that's the grassroots input I think we really need to hear and say, you know what, we need to really take that into heart and really turn that vision into some kind of reality for the future. It's going to take years, but you got to start someplace, right? Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, so I see another card. Go ahead, Commissioner Woodward.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, I stepped out for a minute. So if you covered this, do you have put together like a social media post or something that could be a quick paragraph that we could all share that explains what you're looking for? As far as if we send that out to residents so they know, maybe a couple of ideas so that, when they think of projects, the type of projects that people have suggested, just to get the mind going and with a quick link. So I'd be happy to share it, but I don't want to skew it too much, but your information would be helpful.
So one of the ideas that came up in the technical advisory committee meeting this month when we shared the same presentation was the idea of like a social media kit. So that's something that, the seed was planted, we're working on it. So hopefully we'll be able to submit to everybody, including our advisory committees, some guidance on how to cross-post and share the information, push out opportunities for folks to engage. So that's something that we're actively working on and hope to share in the near future. Thanks.
Yeah, that's a great question, and a great idea that's come up. So we will be sharing that soon. And in the meantime, if just sharing our LRTP link, which has a survey, and share your feedback, it'll pop up, the image and the website. So we really appreciate everyone helping us spread the word. But we'll put together a very brief kind of social media post so that it could be included and shared in others' newsletters and things like that. So thank you.
That would be great. All right. Councilmember Drucker.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Do you mind putting your contact information back up there so we could just take a quick picture?
I'll
I
defer
know
to
that
Sam on
we're going to invite you to come out. I'm going to put the request in to invite you to come out to the city of Boca. We have so many plans around transit and mobility. It's our second strategic goal for our city, and most of our conversations dealing with transit mobility connectivity. And I know my counterpart across the room, big on bike and pedestrian and walks. That's kind of her, she's championing that effort. So if you could put that for me, then we'll put the request out. Thank you.
Thanks. Anytime anybody wants to find my contact information or reach out at our palmbeachtpa.org/LRTP, that's the best way to find all the information and stay up to date.
Thank you. And for clarification, because we're asking everyone to please, invite us to go, but Nathan, you will also be reaching out to all the municipalities to see if we can get on their agenda to come present as well. But it also helps to get some help from the top down as well. So our goal is to go to all the municipalities and get the word out.
Yeah, we've made a list of all your meeting dates, so we'll be reaching out. Thanks.
Okay, any other cards? I just have to share, we, in the city of Palm Beach Gardens, we do a resident survey every 2 to 3 years. And this year resoundingly, we had our residents asking for more pedestrian, bicycle and other trails and things like that, methods to get around that aren't cars. And we did have a close to 100% satisfaction survey, I just have to say, but I have to squeeze that in. All right, thank you so much. That was a great presentation. We're going to move on to partner agency updates. I think we see Palm Tran in the house. Good morning, Mr. Forbes. Come on up. Oops, sorry.
Good morning. Can you hear me now? Clinton Forbes, Executive Director of Palm Tran. Thank you for your service, TPA Chair and board members. Just two, I think, pretty significant updates. One is that ridership is up. So from August 2023 versus August 2022, we have seen a more than 17% increase in ridership across all modes. In whole numbers, we're seeing about 760,000 boardings for that month versus 655,000 in 2022. In August 2023, comparing to July 2023, we see nearly 18% increase in ridership from month to month. So that's very promising. We are still on a upward trajectory and in terms of ridership post-pandemic. We are recovering, we've recovered about 90%, over 90% of our ridership to pre-pandemic levels. And as you might recall, we were down significantly, close to 40% in ridership during the pandemic. So that's good news. The not so great news is that recently, at a recent board meeting, we provided an information presentation to give you an update on where we are with the electrification of our fleet, moving to zero emission. And we had, in that report, told you that we had made a selection of Proterra, an electric bus builder. And as you may have read, Proterra has filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And so we did not consummate that engagement. I always like to be, sometimes I don't want to be bleeding edge, cutting edge. I want to be a fast follower. and being in the position of a fast follower, considering that many in the industry have contracted with Proterra and they're in a fix, we are not. And so we do have a choice now of two bus builders that we are talking to and are going to engage. That's on the Florida Consortium, which allows us to really engage with them in a quick manner as opposed to going through a rigorous solicitation process. And they are New Flyer, which is a recognized bus builder in North America, and Gillick. And so we are talking to them now. What that does, and as you know, we have with Ms. Nielsen and your board close to $11 million in your plan for the expansion of electric buses. And so that slows the procurement just a little, but our expectation is to, still have our first delivery of electric buses next year. And so that's our update. We just wanted to give you an update on the status of that, Madam Chair and members.
Thank you, Mr. Forbes. Any public comments come through?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, I see we have Councilmember Drucker's card is up. Oh, is there anyone else? No. Oh, you do have a, thank you so much. Okay, go ahead, Tony.
I just wanted to ask, I thought a few months ago that you all were going to be going to all the municipalities regarding your bus shelter program. Can you please get with my staff to see if you can make that appearance at the village? We are considering coming up with a more of a unified bus shelter program and would want your input, especially I've seen things out there like places to park your bikes and things like that. So if you could maybe get with Michael Bornstein, I'd appreciate it.
Michael Bornstein, post haste. In fact, there are 39 municipalities. And so we wanted to make sure that we, met with the larger municipalities first, which we, I think, have concluded. And now we're beginning to, meet with the rest. And I think let's make sure we have them on the schedule. Great. we will be there.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. All right, Commissioner Drucker.
Thank you. Just more of a shout out. I had the opportunity to be on the bus last week for Hispanic Cultural Month, Somos Líderes. And there was an incident where someone fell on the bus and we had to go into action. So a couple thank yous, Palm Beach Fire that showed up on the side of Forest Hill. I put the call into 911, and then your staff, the way they handled the incident. The person is fine. We continued with the bus tour. It was just a moment, and they were standing up. And what it was a cart literally cut off the bus. So it's also for our drivers out there. Those buses they're not safe. There's no seatbelt. And to do a sudden stop, even if you're sitting, we all kind of jolted. But the staff was wonderful and everybody showed up and the person was fine and Palm Beach Fire was great and we continued the tour. So it was just kind of something that just happened very quick. But I just appreciated the efforts of everybody keeping calm. And of course, the bus is beautifully wrapped. And as a Hispanic, I was very proud to be on the bus. And I think we got on at 7:30 and we came off at 6:30 p.m. So thank you also to the county, because I know it was a county effort. Well, we had a lot of stops, but it was really enjoyable. It was just like a very good feeling. Obviously, yo soy hispana, so it was even more important for me to be on the second. This is the second year they've done that. And I also am thanking all the county commissioners because I'm sure they're going to continue this program. And I just had the honor to be on it this year.
Great.
So,
And I'm
thank you.
glad that worked out.
All right, Valerie, do you have?
Thank you.
No? All right, thank you so much, Mr. Forbes. All right, guys, we're going to move on to our administrative items that are provided as information to the board. There are no presentations unless we request. So if you guys had a chance to look at our admin items, it's just our public involvement activity reports, the FDOT scheduling report, and the PED Bike quarterly crash report. Any questions or comments on those? All right, so I'll see everybody back here on October 19th. Oh, yes, sir. I didn't see that thing. I definitely need some new glasses.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Go for it.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I have two requests. And this is directed to our executive director. Is it possible we can have a update on the County Road 880 lighting at the next meeting to bring us up to speed, time frame, where we at with that? Because we do have a lot of new board members. They don't know, we've been working on this for almost 15 years. The second part that many of you might not know, but in case you do, I want to just share this with you. We have two County Road 880s. There's the new and the old. And most of us travel on the new 80, formerly designated from the state, but now County Road 880. And thank you guys for taking on that task. But there's still an old 880 that some folks still use. And I don't know if you've driven on that road recently, but it's like a roller coaster. It's very dangerous because you have a major canal on one side, then you have the canal banks on the other side. And I'm telling you guys, and I'm guilty for it as well, because I'm traveling on the new 80. But the old 80, if we can get an update where we at, or is there a possibility to get funding to get that road resurfaced? Because it's to the point. As a matter of fact, we're celebrating next month will be 100 years of service for that road. The first vehicle that driven by that road was in 1923. So I'm a dinosaur here, but I'm telling you guys, because we're so spoiled using the new 80, we got to do something about the old 80 as well. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I have a couple other cards. We have Councilmember Drucker.
Sorry, I should have done this at commissioner's report. This is just more of an administrative for everybody that's here, so it'll save me the emails. On our agenda for next week, we'll have the interlocal agreement to extend the contract with the TPA for 5 years. So that's coming before the council on Wednesday. Usually we have our meetings on Tuesday, but because of the Jewish holiday, we're doing Tuesday, Wednesday. So that'll be approved. So I just wanted to give that, and that's resolution 101-2023. So thank you.
Good point. We just passed that at our city council meeting. Yeah, Tuesday night. All the nights are all over the place now, right? All right. Any other cards? Any other comments before we close up shop for the day? No? All right, so again, our next meeting is going to be, I always have to look one more time, no more cards, they keep popping up last minute. Okay, we're good. Next meeting is October 19th, 2023. I will look forward to seeing everyone here then. And with that, this meeting is adjourned.